Hello everybody, it's your boy Voldigoad, and today I have another YT vid about one of my favorite anime characters, Voldigoad. As you guys should know, season 2 just dropped a few weeks ago, meaning a few episodes should be already out. But in the honor of season 2, I felt like we should go back to season 1 and talk about just how strong Voldigoad really was. After reading the light novels and rewatching the anime, I've noticed that there's a lot of statements, or there's a lot of things that weren't very explained very well, which a lot of people just ended up overlooking. And I think he's pretty damn powerful, and I think a lot of people would agree with that just in season 1 alone. But I think there's a lot of times where certain statements or certain feats are just underlooked because, in my opinion, I don't think the anime explained everything as good as the light novel did, obviously. But with all that to the side, let's hop directly into this, and make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. So in arc 1, which is episode 1 to 4, the most entertaining battle is obviously Ego vs Enos. And one thing about this battle is at the beginning we see Ego try to attack Enos, and he basically blitzes him from behind. What happened in this situation is, well, Ego has the ability to fast forward his time. In the light novel, this is basically described as him being able to instantly move. Enos even makes the comment of he was able to get behind me in 0.1 second because he fast forwarded his own time. In other words, yes, this means that Enos was, 1, able to perceive him, and 2, he let him attack him, right? So it wasn't like he was actually blitzed. He's blitzed in the aspect of just letting him, but if he was really serious from the get-go, it would have been GG, obviously. Another thing I think a lot of people overlook is when he does get stabbed in the back and Ego states be swallowed by eternal time. In the light novel, I think this is probably one of my favorite parts just because how cool it was. Basically in the light novel, it's described as Enos fast forwarding his own time. And at the beginning of the anime, Enos is very confused about why there isn't any demons that can recognize him. Enos states that more power you have, the stronger you are, the longer you can last, like, you know, the longer you can live for. So for him, it wouldn't be a surprise for have a few demons to live for those 2,000 years he wasn't there, right? And I think that's very important because in the light novel, it's described in this moment that 1 billion years went by, and then 10 billion years went by, and then an entire eternity, right? So it took him more than 10 billion years just to erase his body. And the most interesting part about this is later on in the second arc, when he versus another Elder, the Elder states that congratulates him based on when someone reincarnates, they can usually only use about 10% of their power. Enos basically corrects him and says, no, you're alright, I haven't gained all my power back. And actually in the light novel version of this fight, Enos states he actually has less than 10% of his power. That means less than 10% of his power basically made his body almost completely immortal, to the point where to just erase it, he had to live in eternity. So you gotta think this, how long could he really live if he had all of his power and that god fast forwarded? That'd be like eternity times 10, which doesn't even make any sense. But I think you guys get the grasp about just how impressive that feat alone is. Later in the fight, Ego basically comes against him, and Enos is basically able to block both attacks from both sides, and basically we have like this purple lightning that gets created. The important part about this is in the light novel version, when this attack happens, Ego, he's actually splitting space and time, and in the light novel version, Enos doesn't even use magic to block it, he uses his pure hands. So even though in this fight he was only less than 10% of his power, he can still contend against 4D. And for people that don't know what 4D is, space in itself is 3-dimensional, time is 1-dimensional, so 1 plus 3 equals 4D. Just a quick little study, you know. Want to do a deeper conversation? That's another video. But main point, less than 10% Anos is able to resist and hold his own against 4D attacks, which is something that's completely overlooked in the anime, and it's never actually stated that he splits space and time, even though that's what happens in the light novel. Another really important fact about this is the very first time we get to be seen what's it called, his sword. Basically in the anime, we have like a really quick rundown of, you know, logic doesn't do anything, you know, logic, reasoning, basically anything that should technically give you a chance, like how he was able to manipulate time. In other words, he should be able to recover instantly from any injury, and then by him getting hit by the sword, he wasn't able to recover. The light novel gives like a better description, I would say, of this moment, so let me just read a little statement from it. So basically in the light novel version of this, he states, "This is Venedosia, the abolisher of reason, the demon sword of the founder, destroyer of existence. Be it providence, fate, or a miracle, all will bow down before me and disappear. No matter how sturdy, how eternal, or how infinite a thing was, Venice could destroy even reason itself. Reason was meaningless before the sword of devastation." And basically what it means is, if you didn't understand that, basically everything that Anos voices, basically it's GG for Anos. You know, just to really simplify it, like it doesn't matter if you're infinite, if you're eternal, and I think that's a really important statement. An infinite space, so something that should be bigger than universal. So if he has that amount of power right in season 1, you can easily scale him to like high uni just based off that alone, if he has his sword, which is pretty damn impressive, which is something I think a lot of people looked over. And later on in the series, this sword does eventually get more explained about how we can destroy laws and concepts, so Anos scaling can go very high, and this is still stuff that's happened within season 1. So once again, I think, like I said earlier, season 1 Anos got really looked over. The second arc is when Lei gets introduced, and one of my favorite parts about this is him, Anos and Lei go against 2 of the elders, and 2 of the elders get their ass handed to them. Simple as that. The anime, basically, it was like a 2-second thing, you know, they got defeated, yada yada. Well, whereas in the light novel, basically they both made some bet about, let's fight the 2 elders, let's see who can win first, yada yada. And the big guy on the left with a huge sword, he goes and he strikes Anos, and he states, "How is this possible? I've split mountains with this sword, how am I not able to split you?" And Anos basically replies as, "Just because you split mountains, what does that mean you'll be able to destroy me?" And he takes the hit, like, directly, obviously, meaning that season 1 Anos has at least mountain durability, which is something that gets completely skipped in the anime. It's just boom, he lost in the anime. There's no real fight or combat. But main point, that form of Anos, which is episode 5, I believe, bare minimum already durability, mountain level, and like I said before, at this point he has less than 10% of his power, right? Later on he goes 1-on-1 with Lei, being able to destroy the mountains, dry up the land, and he's also able to split the clouds. According to VSBW, this feat alone was just able to be calculated to island level. So Anos island level pretty damn early, episode 5. Plus he has his really broken sword. Like this is some things this thing a lot of people didn't really think of. And even after this, the next fight within the series that, you know, we can really do some nice scaling off is episode 8. Well, Anos versus another one of his elders. Well, another one of his creation, and known as one of the demon elders, is what I should say. Memphis. Memphis was stated to be stronger than the rest of the elders, which makes him the strongest out of the 7, which is something that I think they completely skipped. It's not that big of a deal, but it's still pretty cool either way. Memphis is basically able to manipulate one of the spells that was able to split the realm into 4 pieces. which is pretty damn impressive, knowing that took sacrificing Anos, the magic of Reno, the goddess of creation, also Hero Kanon. So 4 pretty powerful individuals, and he was able to absorb that magic and manipulate it to a certain extent. And a weakened version of Anos is simply able to defend against that, which is pretty impressive, knowing that realistically, if that magic took 4 people's power just to split the orb, so for one, that magic alone is at least planetary, and he's able to resist against it. So you can argue bare minimum planetary durability, 10%, which is once again something that gets very overlooked. And another thing a lot of people overlooked is when he uses his sword a second time against the second Elder. Right at the beginning, we get to see the Elder get split in half, and I think this is something that a lot of people skipped over when it came to hacks wise. In terms of hacks, him being able to hit him even though he technically dodged is pretty OP. Once again, like I said earlier, the sword itself defeats reasoning, right? It cuts down reasoning. That means even if you dodge something, the reasoning behind that would be most likely because you're faster. Boom, that gets sliced, you're getting hit anyways. So even if you're faster than him, you're stronger than him, doesn't really matter where you're skilled at, you're still getting hit by this blade. Like, I think that's something that a lot of people just looked over. Like, I don't think people realize how OP this blade is, right? And he's basically a god with this blade. Like, I'm not even trying to like undersell it. Like, that's what he is with this blade. It, like I said earlier, it doesn't matter how eternal, how infinite, doesn't matter the reasoning, it gets defeated under this blade. It's just that strong. I think a lot of people found it a little bit complicated while watching it, but hopefully that makes it more easier. And last but not least, the third part, right? So the third arc of the anime is episode 9 to 13, which is like basically the hero arc. And one of the characters we're introduced to is Zacia. She's, I guess you can say, the creation slash daughter of Eleanor. And one of the most important parts about this is during the fight with Anos. During the fight, Zacia uses a move called Gavio, which is basically exploding your souls. In the light novel form of this, it's stated that when she does this, her power basically rivaled a dying star. For people that feel like skipping a good old Google research, a dying star usually means basically stars can last for a pretty damn long time, and when a star is dying, it's burning all of that power in a matter of seconds or minutes. And usually during this occurrence, their power rivals, or sometimes it's even stated to be greater than the power of a sun can. So most dying stars are commonly at least the power of a sun, which is pretty well known. And in the light novel, it's stated when she does this, her power is as fierce as a dying star. So meaning you can argue that this attack was at least star level, and Anos just tanks it. Like, no problem, no injuries or anything, you know, point center, you know, way in the face, he endures it. It's pretty damn incredible. I think it's another feat that gets really looked over. And during the third arc, I would say the most impressive thing that doesn't really get well explained besides the light novel version is when the heroes use the ability called Ask. Basically, it was explained as to be a sort of amp to one individual out of a group of people. And eventually, we find out that Ask is the concept of Jaga. And in the light novel, it's basically explained that Ask became a law of the world. In itself, it became a concept, which is pretty damn interesting, knowing that at the end of the day, Anos and Kenon/Lay was able to destroy it, which is pretty damn impressive, meaning that in that sense they destroyed a concept. And I can leave that for another day, but concepts can be scaled pretty damn high depending what it is and where you think concepts scale. But like I said, that's a conversation for another day. But even though he was still able to do that, even if you want to say he used his sword, later on in the series, he may or may not be stronger than his sword. So, you know, my man's animals can definitely be scaled pretty damn high in just season 1. And like I said earlier, there's a lot of things in here that I think a lot of people just looked over, or maybe the anime just didn't explain well. For example, Source wasn't really explained well in the anime. Well, like in the light novel, it's explained to be your existence, the concept of your own existence, which is pretty damn impressive, knowing that Enos goes around destroying sources, meaning that he has enough strength to literally just destroy people's existence, which is a huge level up compared to just straight up killing people. Yeah, and just his hacks alone in season 1 was another thing that was very much overlooked. Like just at the beginning of the series, if I can just name a few real quick, just the first episode when he voices one of the demons and he uses his halt as a attack. In the light novel, this is basically explained to be durability negation. He sends jolts of magic and it goes through a person's body. OP, he has compulsion magic, creation magic, life and death manipulation. He has his magic eyes, which has 2 features. 1, it can just destroy anything it looks at. 2, it's stated by Anos numerous of times to be the ultimate form of anti-magic. Just by being near others, he can make other people's sources go haywire, as long as his own source is stronger. He has his classic origin magic where he can really just use himself, or he can use his castle as a starting point, which once again makes him pretty damn powerful. Gantum, which is teleportation. He's able to transform memories, another pretty cool trick. He has Guise, which is another form of amping. He has Geo Glaze, which in the anime, Geo Glaze is basically explained to be just a pretty strong fire skill. Well, in the light novel, it's literally just going to be a black sun. So, though he's literally creating a black sun, which just sounds really cool and really impressive. Me personally, I don't think it means he was instantly star level off of that. But main point, he's still pretty impressive that he's making a sun. He can rewind time. He can fast forward time, and it's also explained in the light novel. I don't believe it's stated in the anime, but in the light novel it's stated that Enos learned the concept of time itself, and this allowed him to be able to manipulate time in any form of way. Regeneration magic, and his regeneration magic is probably one of the best, knowing that even though his entire body is destroyed, as long as his source is, you know, a-okay, he can just bring himself back. Like, his regeneration is just ridiculous. Anti-magic, he doesn't even need his body to use magic. Like I said earlier, he can just use magic from a source. He has his sword, Venetia, that's able to go against laws, concepts, reasoning, list goes on. You know, it's basically just a weapon that can destroy all different forms of reality. He's able to manipulate his castle, which has a bunch of different weapons and such. Yeah, so main point, just like his abilities are pretty OP. Just like his season 1 powers, and common sense season 2, and if they really feel like it, if they do end up animating everything, obviously he gets way more powers. It is stated in the light novel, I don't think it's stated in the anime, but I believe it's stated in the very first book that he's able to use every form of magic besides a few. So he basically has what, like 90 plus of like the voice's ability. So pretty damn strong. So his feats, his hacks, season 1 Anos, main point, truly unbelievable person, and I just can't wait to see what he does in season 2. And yeah, with all that to the side, that's it for the video. See you guys later.